Here we go. All right, here comes the intro.
Okay.
Put my game face on.
Okay.
It's real. It's game face. Okay. Welcome to. He's laughing. We can't do it. That's going in the blooper.
Sorry.
That's going in the blooper reel.
Here we go.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome to Third Eye Champagne. I'm Kirsten, Langston, author and intuitive. I have a guest with me today. As you can see, there's somebody here on the screen. This, as you know him, is Reiki Dave. And as everyone else knows him, Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Kirsten. How are you?
Welcome. So here, I'm going to give you a little background on how I found this person. We're going to talk about Reiki today. I'm very excited about it. I'm going to give you a little, I think some of you have heard my little spiel about it, but I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. And then we're really going to get into some of the nitty-gritty, some of the information that I think a lot of people don't have, a lot of people don't know, they don't understand what it is. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how Dave got where he is. Very exciting. So here's how I find him, okay? So a lot of you know this, a lot of you don't. Sometimes I spill personal tea on my show and sometimes I don't. But I was having this horrible bladder problem. And you guys know this. It was like a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. And I was desperate. I'm going to acupuncture. She's putting the little beads all over me. I don't know if you guys know, they put like little seeds in pressure points and stuff. I mean, I'm walking around with little beads attached to my legs, and like in my ears. And nothing is helping. I'm going to acupuncture, and it's a helping kind of, but it's not a permanent thing. And I'm fucking desperate. So I'm talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, "You should try Reiki." And the funny thing is, this is like, this person telling me to try Reiki is like so out of left field. I was like, why are you telling me this? So God, this is unusual. When it comes from an unusual place that I really pay attention to, you should try Reiki. And I know this guy that does Reiki. Okay, so cue Reiki Dave, right? So this is before Rona. And it was right before the pandemic started. I remember, because I think I saw you 4 times, and then it was like pandemic, bam, everything was shut down.
Yes.
So I don't know what I'm in for. I had somebody previously, I'm going to put it in quotes because I'm a bitch, do Reiki, and nothing happened. They were like, I'm going to do Reiki for you. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm like on a massage table. It's a massage therapist. She's going to do Reiki. And nothing happened. It was like supposed to be this thing. It was, going to be a miracle. And I was like, that did nothing. So I'm completely skeptical as a psychic. I know. As I go in to see Dave, I'm just like, we'll see what happens. And I was shocked and amazed. I will tell you this. It was a life-changing experience. It was absolutely a game changer for me. I really thought, okay, yeah, this guy's going to lay hands on me, like I'm going to go home and I'm going to be like, well, that was money well spent. You know what I mean? Like, I really didn't think much was going to happen, especially considering acupuncture was barely touching the problem. So it was kind of like, okay, how is this going to be any different? But it was, and now I'm fully fucking fascinated. So that's my background story. That's how I came to find Dave. He is, I'm going to say this, a very compassionate, kind person, and it really comes through in the way that he works. It really comes through. So I'm going to now bombard you with questions if you're okay with that. So let's start super basic. What is Reiki?
So I'll say, as I've been taught, Reiki is a hands-on healing modality that was, we say that it was rediscovered. We don't say that Dr. Usui discovered it, because Reiki has been around. There is no space and time with Reiki, so I can't even refer to it as from the beginning of time. Right. But in the 1920s, it was rediscovered by a man named Dr. Mikao Usui, who was living in Kyoto, Japan at the time. And he had a spiritual awakening because he was curious about how Jesus and Buddha could heal with their hands. And what happened is he well, you have to come to Reiki class to actually hear the
I
stories.
love it. I love it. Yes, yes,
But
yes.
a ball of light hit him on the top of his head after basically him ruining his life for 20 years searching for this answer. He lost his family,
Wow.
everything. And this ball of light hit him on the top of the head on Mount Kurama outside of Kyoto, Japan. And while he was in meditation, and it turned his hands on. He discovered that when he put his hands on people, that the Reiki energy came out his hands, through his crown, down his third eye, down his throat chakra, down his shoulders, and his hands were open. So Reiki is a hands-on healing modality that when you put your hands on someone else, when you've been attuned by a Reiki master, a Reiki master will open up your crown chakra, your third eye, your throat chakra. So the Reiki energy that is already all around us and running through us runs through us more readily, if that's a word.
Yeah.
And then your hands are opened up. So when you put your hands on yourself, like Reiki 1 class is really about self-treatment and then treating your loved ones. Reiki 2 is a very different thing, and that's more of a practitioner kind of practice to where you can put your hands on yourself still, you can put your hands on others, you can send Reiki, like many of your clients, I've sent them Reiki. So you put your hands down and the Reiki energy flows through me, out my hands into the receiver. And and what it does is it revitalizes all your, from a cellular level, your body. It just gets rejuvenated physically, mentally, and emotionally. The thing that I like to always say is that I'm not a Reiki healer. I'm a conduit. Reiki is the healing energy.
Yeah.
So, which is great because it comes through me into the person, and their problems do not come back into me.
Yes,
So,
which is a hazard of my job, unfortunately. Yeah. So okay, so I have to say this, and this is what one of the main differences I noticed with my first quote unquote, I'm just going to throw shade on this poor person that gave me Reiki back in the day. My first quote unquote Reiki experience, and when I worked with you, it was like, holy shit. So let me just give you guys this picture, okay? I'm in a person's house, because I don't know if you still are working out of the house, but you were working out of the house. So I'm in this person's house and I'm thinking, nothing's going to happen. This is a nice guy. Nothing's going to fucking happen. And so but I'm on the table, and this is no offense to you. I just had a previous experience where it was like, okay. So I'm thinking nothing's going to really go down. And the next thing I know, I felt his hands heat up. You can feel it. That's the crazy thing. You can feel this. It is like, and I don't even remember, I was in such pain. I honestly don't remember what was going on. I was in so much pain. I was in so much trouble, and I'm laying on, and I'm just kind of desperate. And he's putting his hands, and I forget where you put them, but I think it was like around the hips or something. That's when and I'm going, holy shit, mind blown. I'm like, cause he warns you when you go in. I mean, warns you, but he tells you this is how it works. This is what's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. And, so you're prepared. And then all of a sudden, and you even said to me, you might feel my hands heat up. Holy shit. I mean, it was a mind blower. It was a mind blower. So my question to you, okay, so when you first started doing Reiki, you can feel your hands, right? So you're first starting to do it. And can you feel your hands heat up, or do you not feel it the way I feel it?
Yeah, I mean, what my hands feel is warmth. When I put my hands on someone, and I usually start on the torso and then move to the head and then do the back, depending on the treatment. But my hands go down, and I can feel warmth. I can also feel tingling. I can also feel some pulsating. I can feel when an area is cooler, it means it's depleted. I can feel when certain chakras are shut down, they'll be cold, and then they'll start warming up slowly, and then they'll get really warm, and then they'll find their place.
Oh, interesting.
They'll balance. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Wow. So, all right.
Go ahead.
So how did you find Reiki? Like you're bopping along in life, and how does it come to you?
Well, you said it about yourself when you came to Reiki. There was a tremendous amount of pain in my life for many, many years, and it was about 18 years ago, and a friend of mine was getting her Reiki Masters. She was in her Reiki Masters training, and I was in early recovery. I had been a tissue-dependent alcoholic and drug addict since I was very young, and so I was in a grave amount of pain because for the first time in a couple decades, I wasn't medicated.
Right. So you're feeling all your feels.
I was detoxing my bodily, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Wow. I was gone. So I go to her house twice a week, and she would give me treatments, and I had this amazing experience with it. I went weekly for probably almost 2 years because I started right when she started her Reiki training, and I started. Mrs. Takata talked about, she's the woman who brought Reiki to the West. She talks about when the spiritual and the emotional are balanced and healed, the body follows. Mm-hmm. And so I was not only healed physically, but emotionally and mentally and spiritually also. And now spiritually is like such a loaded word. It could mean the sun setting and the moon rising and the tides and all, whatever. But I had a significant awakening because of Reiki, and so that's what brought me to Reiki. And then she moved away, and I didn't practice it. I was actually attuned to Reiki 1, but it was very casual. And she did it for my daughter and I, because my daughter was practicing also at the time, or getting treatments from her, and she just did it very quickly. And so I didn't really take it too seriously. And then not till about 8 years ago or 9 years ago did I come back to Reiki, and then was a practitioner after that. Oh. But it was such a significant, and I always tell my students this, and I tell my clients this also, is that there is no mistake that you're here today.
Right. Oh my God. Yes.
I don't go to Reiki. Reiki is always opened to me and revealed more.
Right. I love that. So, okay. I know that in order, you guys, I'm just going to FYI you, Dave is a practitioner. He's also a teacher. We're going to get into all of that. And I know if we really want to know all the down and dirty, we got to take your class. But can you give us a little bit of a timeline, just kind of because from what I understand, and I'm a horrible person because I've already forgotten the guy's name, who rediscovered it. I'm sorry. That's
Dr. McCallie-Stewie. It's okay.
Thank you. So he discovers it, and then how does it get to everybody else?
So he, and I'll tell you as much information as you want to know. I was just kind of teasing, but
he's spilling tea, y'all.
So what happened is in 1923 he rediscovered Reiki, and he was a Buddhist monk, and he lived in this monastery with this abbot who believed in his he was seeking, and basically again he thought he ruined his life, right. So he got off the mountain after he had his spiritual awakening. He had a couple things occur on the way back down the mountain. One is that on Mount Karama, there are these huge roots that come out of the ground, huge. They come out feet out of the ground, 3 feet, 4 feet out of the ground. So he's rushing down the mountain, because on the last night they were going to send a searching party out for him because he was going to throw himself over the side of this mountain, right?
Oh, wow.
So he goes down the mountain and he stubs his toe, and his toe opens up, and his toenail comes up and it starts bleeding all over the place. So what do? We put our hands on we would grab our foot,
right,
and he noticed that his hand was burning,
wow,
and hot, and so he kept it on there until the pain went away, and he took his hands off his toe, and he was healed. It was completely healed.
Oh, wow.
And then he had just had a huge spiritual awakening.
Right.
But Reiki worked really good on like fresh cuts, burns, bruises, breaks, all that kind of stuff. So by the time he gets back down to the monastery, the abbot has been on his back for a couple of weeks with a back injury. And so Dr. Usui asks him, can I put my hands on you? And he starts telling him about his spiritual awakening that he has. And the abbot sat up, and they met each other's eyes, and they said, we have to find out how to take this out into the world. And so he eventually began teaching. And the lineage that I come from is really, it's very special to me. And I'll say this from the beginning. We're very good about saying there's no better than or less than Reiki, but this is very special to me, and it's authentic Reiki. Yeah. So Dr. Usui would go teaching in different areas. He would go from Kyoto, Japan, to Tokyo, and he would travel around, and people would set up classes for him. And it was just by chance that he happened to meet this. So it goes from Mikao Usui, and then he met this naval officer, Dr. Tajiro Hayashi. And they're all up in this picture here. And they're here because they're deceased. So for a couple years, he worked with Dr. Tajiro Hayashi, and he learned how to teach and attune him to be a Reiki master, because he knew he was at the end of his life. And if he was to pass away, and he didn't have what they call a lineage bearer to ensure that Reiki stayed the same. So when he trained him in mastery, and he passed away, and then again he would be out in the world, and he would be teaching Dr. Hayashi, and he opened up the first Reiki clinic in Japan. And Hawayo Takata, who was of Japanese descent, her parents were Japanese, but she was born in Hawaii, met him in Japan because she was in terrible, terrible pain. And he helped Reiki heal her. And so eventually he passed away, and he named her the lineage bearer of Reiki as well. So they all ensured that Reiki stayed authentic. It didn't veer away any path. Right. And so it was just these circumstances that happened. But this was around the beginning of Pearl Harbor. And she was supposed to come from Japan, where she was taught Reiki, to go close up her affairs in Hawaii, and then come back and be the lineage bearer in Japan, because they didn't want Reiki to leave Japan. And but the war happened. Right. So she couldn't get back. So anyways, eventually she's the woman who brought Reiki to the West. And it's just by circumstance that it happened that way. And she was named the lineage bearer. So my spiritual lineage is through Hawayo Takata. And then there's John Harvey Gray, who was taught by Mrs. Takata in the 70s. As she practiced Reiki from the 40s all the way until 1980, when she passed away. Wow. And when she was in Hawaii teaching and attuning people, she had never trained any masters. And there was a man named Wally Richardson I think it was probably around 1974, 72, 74. He was a commercial airline pilot. And he would fly from Hawaii, and he would go, his route was up and down the coast from Canada all the way down to San Diego. So on the West Coast in the early 70s, there was all this New Age movement. There was yoga,
Yeah.
there was meditation, there was all this different stuff that was happening in healers. But what Wally realized is that the healers that he knew of, they were using their own energy.
Mm-hmm.
And when they used their own energy, they were doing these amazing healings, but they were getting sick. They were taking on the problems of their clients.
Yep.
So he was in Hawaii, and he saw Mrs. Takata doing a session, right? They would have, I can't think of the word I'm trying to use right now, but demonstrations. She'd have demonstrations. All the masters would have demonstrations throughout the generations. And he was totally blown away, because she said, just like I said, Reiki comes through me out into either yourself, or that when you're treating another person, their problems don't come back to you. So he's like, so what his idea was is she could be his buddy pass, and fly up and down the coast, because he knew all these people who were in healing. And one of the first places that she landed was in Redwood City and this is John Harvey Gray here. And him and his wife, Mrs. Takata, was also having some heart issues, and knew that she needed to start attuning some masters and teaching masters, or else Reiki again would die.
Right.
She was a lineage bearer, so that was her job, to ensure that Reiki carried on as it was taught to her. And so she taught John and Beth she stayed with them and was around them for about 3 years. And she trained 22 Reiki masters from about 1974 to 1980.
Oh, wow.
And so she spent a lot of time with John and Beth, and she taught John and Beth some really special things that she didn't have time to always teach everybody else, because her time was limited. So some people she would teach for a year. Some people she would teach for 6 months. And then some people she taught for a couple weeks. And then these 22 masters, they were all concentrated in the Bay Area or up and down the coast, and they dispersed all over the different parts of the world. And John went back east, and he taught my teacher's teacher. My teacher taught me. So there's 7 people in my line of the lineage.
Right.
Now, don't be mistaken. They've taught hundreds and hundreds of people off that lineage. But what's so special about this to me is the line is very short. So the energy the energy is very strong.
Yeah.
And all the masters were very much into like Reiki first before everything. And my teacher's teacher, Brian Brunius, is the same way. And my teacher, Christopher Tejas is his name. He's in San Francisco. He's the same. And so am I. I've just been granted a gift here.
Yeah.
And John was very much into like, he just went full bore. He was like the longest Reiki master teacher. I think he died at 92.
Oh, wow.
Then he taught and attuned many, many people. So I don't know if that answered your question.
More than answered it. I love it. I know.
It was a little long-winded, but
No, you're the best guest ever. Are you kidding me? You're killing it right now. So this is interesting because when I first was getting Reiki from Dave, I of course, you guys, I'm making videos about it and I'm talking about it. I came home every time after you did a session, I would come home and I would make a video about how I was feeling. And then I put it all up online. I don't know if I ever even sent it to you, but so people were knowing, but I get this email. And it was actually from, I want to say it was somebody in Hawaii. It might not have been. But I get this email from somebody that says, do you know why the Reiki is working so well for you? And I was like, fuck no, I don't know. And she goes, these are my viewers. I love these people. They go all out. She was like, well, I researched him. She's like, she was looking up. I never gave y'all this man's last name. Y'all were like, let me look him up. Let me see. And she goes, I researched his lineage. And this is why it's working so well for you. She said it was unusual if we're playing 6 degrees to 7 bacon Reiki style, you're close to the original guy. Like, you're close. And she said it was very unusual for somebody to have that kind of a lineage. So I find it very, very interesting. And we were kind of talking the other day how you were thinking about kind of doing that, you know, setting up classes and having people set up classes for you. That's kind of something you're thinking about, yeah?
Yeah, because that's what I'm really interested in, because not everybody has the opportunity that we do in like the Bay Area and just different areas that are concentrated with Reiki masters. But like people have done, it's just like my teacher's teacher. He used to come back and forth while he was teaching Christopher, and Christopher would set up classes for him. And it's just this tradition. But my spin on it is I'm really interested in being able to take Reiki to different cities or towns or whatever, where you have people want to learn Reiki, but don't have Reiki masters around them to be able to do that. So the way that happens is a person would set up classes. They would have a space, whether it was at a wellness studio or whatever, and to travel. I mean, you know, obviously it would depend on what the class was, but there would need to be about 8 people to be in a class, like, you know, like say 7 to 12 people. And, you know, the particulars, we could work that out, but that's what would happen is I would come to your town or your city if you didn't have, people didn't have the abilities to have Reiki taught to them. And yeah, and it'd be really great. I would love it.
Okay, so if any of my viewers out there want to help you set something up, they can email you. Yes.
And my name is Dave Hadley. I'm a Reiki master in San Francisco, and my website is awakenedlightreiki.com.
Yes, I'm going to put all his details where you all can find them. They'll be in the box, they'll be in the bio, they'll be in the description. I mean, a lot of you already kind of know. I have a lot of people, I will say. I don't often recommend practitioners of any kind. It has to be the best of the best. It has to be somebody that really did something noticeable for me. And so when I came out and I said, okay, Reiki Dave's the guy, and I'm sorry, this is what my viewers call you. They call you Reiki Dave.
Yeah,
that's the way it is. So sorry.
I like that. It's funny.
At least you know the one of the other energy guys that I was working with, that poor bastard, I named him Will the Witch Doctor. So you've got you got away okay with this. But anyway, when I started recommending you, I know a lot of people started seeing you, and they were also super blown away. Like it's such a different thing, because in this, and for me, I'm going to say like a fucked up thing, but for me, I come from a place where, yeah, I do psychic readings. Yes, I help people. But I also, you know, I read on Bigfoot. Like I do Bigfoot videos. Like I go up to Humboldt and I hunt Bigfoot, you know, so I'm kind of all over the map. But I also look at stuff like acupuncture and Reiki and healing modalities. And for me, Reiki is so legitimized. It's so legitimized. It's a legitimate form of healing work. It's a legitimate form of therapy. It's not, because I think a lot of people kind of, and I think I'm going to say more fucked up shit. I think you have these people, you know, these YouTubers that are like, put your hand on the screen, you know, and for me, it starts to group it in with the people like me that hunt Bigfoot. You know what I mean? Like there should be a separation because it's legitimate. I'm just sort of rambling, but that leads me to a couple of questions, which are those people on YouTube. There's a ton of them. There's a ton of these people, and they're telling you, I'm sending you Reiki right now. And it's, you know, they don't know who you are. You know, they're sending it through YouTube to whatever randoms. I mean, what is there an official stance on this? You know, or what is your opinion on this? Like, is it real, or are these people kind of full of shit? I mean, like what is that?
So, I've been taught by my teacher and my teacher's teacher, and they have a lot of humility. And that I just don't know about that Reiki.
I don't either.
So the thing is what I pay attention to is there's an organization called the Reiki Alliance.
Hmm.
And if you go to people's websites, and the old style people, they don't even have websites because Reiki comes to you.
Right.
But it will say a member of the Reiki Alliance. And that is a really good indication that the purpose of the Reiki Alliance is to keep Reiki authentic and exactly like the masters wanted it to happen.
Right.
And like I just went to a Reiki Alliance gathering, and these people are like, it's a worldwide organization, and they have business meetings, and these people practice some serious principles, because there's people who might want it their way, and everybody just gets kind of like heard and listened to and respectful to each other, and just a lot of love. So if people do go on different people's websites, on my website it says I'm a member of the Reiki Alliance. This is also the Yasui Shiki Ryoho is the Yasui system of natural healing. People who practice that I know, it's the real deal.
Yeah.
Now I send Reiki.
Right.
Sending Reiki is very effective. I send you Reiki every week.
Yes.
And with the Reiki 2 class, that's what you learn, is you learn how to send Reiki. You also learn how to do mental treatments and stuff like that. And I have like a 1:30 appointment today for a Zoom call, which is basically, it's a longer session to where you interview the person, then you give them you have them lay down, turn off their video, they do a really long session, it takes about an hour, and then you do an outtake. And it's even though I'm not putting my hands on people, the person, it's very effective.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that my thing is Mrs. Takata used to call it authentic Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read letters from John, and John was very much like authentic Reiki. Everything he did was to ensure that Reiki, stayed as he was taught. And so that makes it, for me, very significant, very strong, and it's amazing to watch people. My whole thing is as a Reiki master, really what you're doing is, like, I didn't call out and say I'm going to be a Reiki master one day. That's like
Right.
ridiculous to me. But it's all about being of service.
Yeah.
And the significant changes that I've seen in people are like mind blowing. Now, the thing with our culture is everybody's busy. So we like people to come and get Reiki treatments on a regular basis, whether it's hands-on, whether it's distance, but people are really busy. Also, Reiki is not inexpensive because it's pretty substantial. It's significant.
An investment. Yeah.
But when people get regular treatments, and if you don't get regular treatment, that's okay also. But their lives change.
Yes.
Physically, emotionally, mentally, and drop the word spiritually. The openness to the universe and to truth is completely different.
Yes, I agree. I have to say, so I know I told this poor man it'll be half an hour, we'll be done, and I'm like, I will talk to him all day, y'all. Like, this is
we always do that. Yeah.
good shit. But I will say, so I am a writer, and I am a fierce journaler. Like I write everything down. I'm also a creative writer, but I noticed, looking back, there's a significant shift for me after I started Reiki treatments. And I have only had, so you guys, because of Rona, I've only had 4 in person, and the rest have been distance. I find it a little bit different. In person, and this was funny because I was like cracking up, because so I get a lot of anxiety driving in San Francisco. It's, oh my God, it's like the worst thing ever. I hate it. So I'm a nervous wreck driving to Dave's house, and I'm thinking, like, I'm going to be a fucking nervous wreck driving home. And so he does the Reiki, and he's telling me, like, you're going to be a little bit of an altered state. And I was like, whatever, bro. No, remind you, everybody, just like you've seen me do this on camera. Like, I go into an altered state quick. Like, I am so susceptible. I'm half a beer in. I'm completely drunk. Like, so he says altered state. I'm like, all right, we'll see. But I was. It's an altered state I've never quite been in before. It's a huge shift. But the funny thing is, you know, I'm a nervous wreck driving to his house. And I go to get in the car to drive home, and I'm going, oh my God, no anxiety. No, I mean, I was perfectly relaxed, and I was driving better. That was the funny thing. It was like, you know, because when you drive nervous, you drive crazy. But I noticed after that, you know, there was an immediate significant change where it was like I went from being a nervous wreck to being like, oh, no, this is fine. Everything is fine. And then as it accumulated, it made a huge difference with the bladder stuff. I still have a little issue like here and there. We're still kind of working on it. And a lot of it is just circumstantial. You know, it's kind of like you keep re-wounding yourself physically. You're going to keep needing to re-heal it. And it's just kind of the way it's working for me. But I've seen a significant shift Reiki wise after it's not like I'm a different person, but it's like I'm seeing things in a different way. It's a complete perspective change. It really is. There's something about it. There's something about it that just completely changes your perspective. Absolutely.
So you brought something up that's a couple things. So I used to use the word altered a lot. And what I use now is I use the word presence.
Yeah.
Because what Reiki does is it brings us into our bodies like we are not used to.
Yes. With
all the stuff coming at us from the world constantly, we're taking in all that information, all the stresses, even the good stuff. But a lot of the static is taking us out. We're always our society in general, and at least the way I was brought into the world, it's always outside stuff. Yeah. So what Reiki does at a cellular level, it realigns and heals tissues, bones, bone marrow, everything, and your body gets revitalized. And what it does, and your mind and emotion also does, it brings you into the present moment like we're not used to.
Yeah.
So it seems like whoa, but it's actually we're in presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's odd. That's an odd thing. When we're more present, we heal physically, emotionally, and mentally.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's absolutely the real deal.
And I also like how you mentioned that you still have stuff with your bladder and stuff like that. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so Reiki is really good for long-standing stuff. It works very well. And it's really good for cuts, burns, bruises, fresh breaks, all that stuff. It like heals really, really quickly that way. But I have a friend who has MS. She's had MS for many, many years. Then it started really beating her up about 4 years ago. She was constantly fatigued. She had pain. She was depressed from it. It was just she was lagging constantly. And she started getting infusions. Mm. And because we need to go to the doctor, right? So she was telling somebody about this, and I heard it. She was talking to somebody else, and I heard it, and I said, hey, I do this thing called Reiki. And when you tell people that, they're like, what is that? So right. I just said, it's a hands-on healing modality. I think I can help. And she's like, puh. So about 6 months later, I heard her talking about it again, and I just happened to be in the same room with her. I said, I do this thing called Reiki, and I think it could really help. And she said, puh.
I love it.
Well, she said, yes. She said, so she came every week, and sometimes twice a week, and she started getting her energy back.
Yeah.
She didn't have as much fatigue. She didn't have as much pain in her muscles and her joints. And she wasn't as depressed either. Yeah. It didn't get rid of her MS.
Right.
It didn't get rid of her MS. she doesn't go get the transfusions anymore. So and a lot of autoimmune stuff, as I've experienced it, is emotional stuff. It's our emotions that have affected our immune system. So now, then she started getting first degree Reiki, second degree Reiki, and now she's in a Reiki master's training.
Yeah.
And so my daughter has endometriosis. She was in pain constantly for years. She still has endometriosis, but I've given her so many Reiki treatments, and I send her Reiki because she lives in Los Angeles now, that she doesn't have many symptoms anymore. She's not bowled over in pain constantly. And so when it starts coming back, I start sending her Reiki.
Yeah.
And the thing is both of those women go to the doctor.
Yes, right. So
Right?
Reiki is not, it's not like, oh God, was it Jimmy Swaggart that would, push him on the forehead? Like, that it's not, you're not going to a healing revival tent. You're going to get up out of your wheelchair and walk. Like, that is not Reiki. That is not what you do.
Right. The thing is now Mrs. Takata, what brought her to Reiki was she had depression. She had lost her husband and her brother. And she was left with a couple kids. And in her culture, it was very hard for her to, and in general, it was very hard for a woman to take care of business in those days. She had lots of stress and grief. And she formed asthma and bleeding ulcer. She had a soft tumor, and she had depression and grief. So when she went to Japan and started getting Reiki on a daily basis, her body started expelling these old things through her bowels. And one day she came back. So the doctor said, "Okay, come." Dr. Hayashi said, "Okay, I want you to come twice a day." And she expelled these white chunks, and what they was a soft tumor.
Oh, wow.
And she was going twice a day for months. So because it was not metastasized, then it was an early tumor that was still encapsulated. It expelled. So no, I am definitely not here to say that Reiki is a cure-all.
Right.
But I have had some really significant experiences with my own. Like when I came back to Reiki about 9 years ago, and my teacher who was giving me treatments, I had been suffering with lots of grief and abuse as a young person, and I'd been married in a very difficult marriage for a long time. So when he started giving me and I was going through a divorce at the time, when he started giving me treatments, he would treat my lungs because he felt that they were cool. So I started coughing up all of this old phlegm. That wasn't phlegm. It was crazy. I don't know what it was, but it was crazy. It was like moss almost. It was wild.
Wow.
And I had asthma for years on an inhaler, and and I don't have an inhaler anymore.
Right.
And now when I have stresses in my life, where does my emotions go? They go to my lungs.
Right.
They go to my stomach. So I give myself Reiki. And that's another great thing about being able to go to learn Reiki is when you put your hands on yourself, because Reiki is not everybody has Reiki masters or Reiki practitioners around them.
Right.
You can, when you get attuned to Reiki 1, and Reiki 2, you can put your hands on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so actually people who don't have a lot of funds to keep going back to Reiki, I always say to them, well, you can come to Reiki class and you can put your hands on yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's, because unfortunately, a lot of people don't really know what Reiki is. So, and a lot of people are just kind of cruising around on social media. I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, and this lady's live and she's giving everybody Reiki. And it's like, if you think that something like that, I'm going to just say it. If you think something like that's going to make a significant difference in your life, you're tripping. Like, you're mistaken. Like, you need to go to someone that knows what they're doing, that knows who you are as an individual, and like gives you treatments. Like, that's how it really works. Which leads me my next question. Okay, I really have to ask this. and I sent him some questions beforehand. So
I
I know this one's coming. Is my Reiki infused water really infused with Reiki? Is it doing anything to me when I drink it?
Okay, so that's a great question. So what we talk about in Reiki 1 class is you treat yourself, you can treat others by putting your hands on yourself, you can treat others by putting your hands on them, you can put your hands on animals, you can hover over plants, you can hover over your food, and you can hover over water.
Okay.
So the Reiki energy will go into all those things. Like I had a couple plants in my Reiki room that is just my apartment's just saturated in Reiki.
Yeah.
Right? I have a home office. I also have another office, but this is my sanctuary, so I love it here. And I used to have a 70-pound German Shepherd who was pretty wily. He doesn't live here anymore, but she would walk into the Reiki room and she would just lay down. She was always in the Reiki room. I had these plants that were just really haggard, and I brought them into the Reiki room. And there's so much Reiki in the room that they just grew up.
Yeah.
And they became healthy. So it is a real thing. I don't know about Reiki infused water. I don't know. I'm not here to sell Reiki.
So right. So I'm buying, bottled water from, some quote unquote spiritual company, whatever. And they're like, oh, it's Reiki infused. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But let's say you're sitting down to dinner and you're like, my water needs a little Reiki. Like that's a thing is basically what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay. I just have a few more little questions. I'm gonna let you go. You're like one of the best guests I've ever had. People are gonna be super stoked on this. Well, you know what?
Kirsten is very nice to me.
I am. I like to butter him up. I like to butter everybody up.
It doesn't feel like that.
No, you really are. I mean, what you're saying is it's informative. It's interesting. You're a really good guest. You have to come back because you're a really good guest. And some people, when they're on the show, you kind of have to lead them, and that is not you. You were like, it's like you were born to do this. You're really good on the camera. You really are. So, okay, couple more questions. I'm really going to let you go. Why does Reiki seem to differ depending on the practitioner? Because you're saying it's coming through you. Are there Reiki practitioners where they're trying to use their own energy, or they're getting their own shit mixed up in it, or they're just not really attuned?
Well, I think it has to do with the teaching, really. And again, I don't know much about other Reiki, but I have friends who do massage and then they'll do Reiki after the massage, and I don't know how they were taught, but people use different healing modalities with Reiki, and then they all kind of seem like it's just Reiki, know.
Yeah.
So it's really like if I don't know much about crystals, but some people lay crystals on people and they do Reiki. That's their practice. That's great. The crystals are one healing modality, and the Reiki is a different modality. I think that the thing that I find that I have so much gratitude towards is my teachers and myself are meticulous in our teaching.
Yes.
Like when people come to class and in our practices, we're meticulous. Like my teacher is like, you don't just put the fitted sheet on your table. You take the fitted sheet and you make it as straight as possible. So when the person walks in, they don't even know it, but they see smooth. They feel safer. So it's not just like when people go to Reiki class, they learn how, even though Reiki 1 is about healing, using Reiki for self-treatment and others, you also learn how to give a professional Reiki session. And we spend a lot of time you hear a 4-part story, you get 4 attunements, which basically the attunements open up your crown chakra, your third eye, your throat, and we open up your hands. So we do that. You get 4 attunements, and then there's lots and lots of practical hands-on practice as well. So, and we go over anatomy, basic anatomy, because I'm not a doctor.
Right.
And energy centers, which are the chakras, because you want to know what's below your hands. So it's really meticulous and very, very, very thorough. And it's not a coincidence that the Reiki that we teach, as well as when we give treatments to people, they're very effective.
Yeah. So this makes a little bit more sense, because the person that was doing Reiki for me, I was getting a massage. Oh, I'm going to do a little Reiki. Okay, fine. And then we were just talking afterwards, because I don't even know if I'd ever really heard of Reiki at that point. This was years upon years ago. But I said, well, how did you learn that? Like, what happened? And I was just attuned one day. And so there was nothing before it. There was nothing behind it. There was no teaching with it. It was just like, oh, somebody attuned me one day. So
yeah, and that's kind of what happened with me the first time I got attuned, like 18 years ago. Is that's kind of the same thing that happened. And did I have Reiki energy coming through me? Yes, I definitely did. It was just a very different. It was a different thing. Like there are people who will teach online. First degree, second degree, and masters in a weekend.
wow.
And my master training, Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 classes are 2 8-hour days, and we don't do it online. We do it in person.
Yes.
And then my Reiki master training was 2 years, 2,000 client hours, and a master thesis project.
Wow.
Because in the end of it, basically what you do is you become Reiki.
Right.
As a Reiki master.
So
you
basically went to Reiki college and you have your Reiki PhD. Like, you did the work.
Yes,
you did the work.
I was turned inside and out.
Yeah.
I got to see all my neuroses, all my fears, all my joys, all the way I used to think about things, and it was just completely like I was turned inside out. Got a whole new life.
You literally, legitimately cannot do spiritual work unless you are completely ripped apart. You just can't. I'm sorry. It's not possible. And actually, in every tradition, there's stories, all these masters, these avatars, they do. They get the shit kicked out of them, and then they're like, then I found it. Like, I found what I'm here to help other people now. Like, you kind of have to, and you kind of have to look at all your bullshit. Otherwise, you're not really going to be able to get where you want to be. Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So you don't teach classes online. Everybody's going to they're going to be like, I want to take the class online. Can't take it online.
Yeah.
Which is why y'all need to set sessions up, like set shit up. Get this guy to come to your town. Get him to come. Get some people to do it, because that's the best way you're going to do it. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now. I mean, Reiki has definitely been calling my name for sure. Do I have the time to go to a class? No. No, I do not. It'll happen when it happens, but I know it's going to happen. Like, I know. Like, I just know. It was, it was one of those things where I was like, oh no, this is going to be happening for me. Like, it's just telling me, yeah, like, you're going to be doing this. I have 2 more questions, and then I'm for real going to let you go. So one of my questions is this. For someone like me who is already really open, obviously, and I can feel my chakras moving. I can feel them spinning. I can feel all of that. I can feel what my third eye is doing. So for somebody like me to get attuned, and this is just a bizarre question, would it be the same as somebody who's not psychic? And I don't know if you can answer this, or would it be sort of like weirdo turbocharged? Like would it be different?
Yeah, it's just it's a different thing, because it's for a different purpose. Okay, so in my experience with teaching empaths, is that the correct term?
Yeah.
There's a lot of energy that empaths are just like constantly taking on, correct?
Yes.
And it can be exhausting.
Yes.
So when I've had empaths come to class, because many do, they calm. It's very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And so it's just a very different thing. So whether you're an empath, you're not, whether you're a religious person, an atheist, a believer or not believer, my favorite people who come to Reiki class are the people who I go around the room and I'll say, so, what brings you here, basically? And I love the people who are, there was a couple that came 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and they had no idea. They'd gone online that morning or the night before, and they signed up for Reiki.
Wow.
And so it's basically those chakras are open up, and it's not going to like wreck your chakras. It's the cleanest, clearest, it's universal life force energy. And it's the cleanest white light I've ever experienced. And it does nothing but help balance us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I will say this, and people know this, doing all this psychic work, when I was doing the show and I had clients full time, and now I can kind of balance it a little bit better, but I would get burnt out instantaneously. And I mean, I would do readings where it was like, okay, I do 2 a day, and by the end of the day, I'm only doing 2-hour-long readings a day. I would be on the floor. I'd be a wreck. I was sick constantly, and Reiki 1,000% changed my life with that. Like, I do not get tired after readings. I could go for hours. Like, I don't have to limit. I mean, I do, because I'm not crazy, but I don't really have to limit the amount of clients I have, because Reiki has dramatically improved the way I read, how I read, what I'm channeling. I'm not getting exhausted anymore. I'm not anything. I don't really take on client shit. I mean, sometimes you'll have to shake it off. You'll have to be like, oh shit, that was something. But it's a drastic change. So I will say this: if you are a psychic, if you are a sensitive, Reiki is one of the best fucking things you can do for yourself. That's why I get it every week. I mean, yeah, I get it for the bladder because we still have to keep that little puppy happy. I think it's nerve damage. I don't know. Let me just spill my medical tea. I don't know what's going on, but I don't care. I mean, it's off and on. It's very rarely that I have a problem with it anymore, like super rare. Okay, so I'm rambling. We got to wrap this bitch up. Let's do this. One more final question. Where do you see yourself in the future? Like, what is Dave's Reiki looking like in the future? You just want to like Woody Guthrie it, and I'm totally dating myself. Let's go back to Woody Guthrie. People are like, the millennials are like, who's that?
Well, you know, what Reiki's showing me is like, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I just get to do my practice daily and stay present. And but you know, I see people on a regular basis at my home office, which I love. My home office. I
love your home office.
It's amazing. And I teach here, and I teach at the San Francisco Reiki Center as well. And I do a lot of distance treatments. And I'd like to say to your clients, you call them your clients, thank you so much for all of the support. And you know, I've been able to send a lot of people Reiki all over the United States.
They're the best. Aren't they the best?
Yeah. So thank you for that. And yeah, I mean, I live Reiki, and I just want it to just keep growing and growing and growing. And so yeah, I would love to take trips and teach.
Yeah.
And you can people can email me if you want. My phone's also there. Sometimes email gets a little muddied. And then yeah, and I'm always available for hands-on stuff. And I know that people have been a little bit more concerned these days about what's going on in the world with the COVID and all that stuff. And I can say that we've been teaching not this past July, but the July before. We've been teaching and seeing clients the whole time, and we're like over the top about safety and all that kind of stuff. So we've been very, very successful in not only just keeping everybody safe physically, but emotionally, just like feeling like, yeah, this is a good environment to be in. So I'll put that out there also.
Absolutely. So, okay. So if you guys want to find Dave, you're going to go to awakenlightreiki.com. That's where you're going to find him. You can book sessions through the website. Yes. You can do distance, which works. You can, if you're in the Bay Area, if you're around the Bay Area, you can go see him, which is, I highly recommend it. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. If you want Dave to teach you Reiki, you would also go to awakenlightreiki.com. Yes. Yes, you can. Yeah. And the thing is with the distance treatments, you would email, like when you go on the website, just go to the email, because you won't see times for that. Right. Okay. Just the hands-on is on there. I don't have any classes right now on there, but I'll be putting them on in the next couple weeks. I usually do like
one a month here. And what else was I going to say? I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay. So also, listen, this man is down to travel. He's ready to go. So if you are like, yes, me and 7 friends, I'm in, Duluth, wherever the hell you live. I'm in Florida, wherever. I mean, fuck, you could travel internationally. He can go anywhere, folks. This guy goes anywhere. So if you're like, I want to set something up, definitely hit him up. Definitely hit him up. Working with him is a privilege. And I really recommend people fucking do it. That's it. That's the tagline right there. It's a privilege, and I recommend you fucking do it. So I think we're going to end it on that note. I want to say thank you so much for being on, for being amazing, for really changing my life. Really, very much so. But also, you're just a fucking excellent guest. People are going to want you to come back on. You guys, if you have questions for Dave, we're going to have him on again. Send me your questions. We'll do some viewer questions. We'll hang out. I'm not letting him go. I am now holding him hostage. He has to come back on the show. That's your own fault because you were a really good guest. So I hope you're ready for me to, harass you. Come back on because it's happening. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone in between, thank you so much for watching. I do love you. I do adore you. Thank you so much, Dave Hadley.
Thank you.
Be well.